Want your garden to look like this, from early spring all the way to frost? Here's the secret. You plant it right now. In August. Most people think the season's over. But August is actually the best time to build next year's garden. Today, I'll show you 3 ready-made, professionally layered flower beds you can copy. Each one is just 3 plants. Add 1 bulb this fall, and each bed will bloom from spring through fall. Let's go! Number 1, the bold one. Hot color for a hot, open spot in full sun. Zones 4 through 8, lean, sharply draining soil, and deer resistant. Once established, this is the lowest maintenance bed of the 3, the easiest one to keep looking good. Yarrow Skysail Fire. 12 to 18 inches tall and about as wide. It blooms from early summer into early fall, opening scarlet red and gradually softening through orange, apricot, and cream. So you see every shade at once. One thing to know, keep the soil lean. Rich soil makes yarrow flop. Salvia Caradonna, about 2 feet tall. Violet flower spikes rise on near black stems from late spring into July. It is easy to grow, full sun and average, dry to medium well-drained soil. That is it. And here's the trick. Cut it back after the first flush, and it will bloom again. Fountain grass Hameln, 18 inches to 2.5 feet tall and wide. Soft plumes appear from August into October, adding movement through the season. Leave it standing over winter for structure and food for the birds. One note about cold, it is reliably hardy through Zone 5. In Zone 4, give it a sheltered position and add winter mulch. Want this bed to wake up weeks earlier than everyone else's? Add 1 bulb. Camassia quamash, 1 to 2 feet tall, blooming in late spring and hardy from Zone 4. It is happy in the sharply draining, sandy, or chalky soil this bed already has. Its low, blue-violet spires handle lean, sun-baked conditions better than other Camassias. Plant the bulbs this fall between the perennials. Camassia needs moisture in spring while it is growing and blooming, then goes dormant for summer. In spring, Camassia blooms from May into June. In summer, Salvia leads through June and July, while Yarrow continues from June through September. In fall, the fountain grass takes over, with plumes from August into October that remain standing through winter. There is something happening every month from spring until frost. How to plant it? Odd numbers only, 3s and 5s, never pairs. Even groups make your eye pair them up and the bed starts to look planted. Odd groups read as one natural drift. Weave everything through the bed, 18 inches apart, never a straight row. And that weaving does one more job. As the Camassia fades in early summer, the perennials around it, the grass especially, fill in over the spent foliage for you. No cleanup. Water. Plant in the evening, soak every day for the first 2 weeks, then every other day for 2 more, and keep a deep soak every week or 2 through the fall until the ground freezes. Feed. Nothing in August. You're growing roots, not leaves. Feed once next spring. Prune. Deadhead the yarrow and salvia through summer. Leave the grass standing over winter. Cut it all back in early spring. That's why August works. Plant now, while the soil's warm and the roots settle in before winter. Number 2, the quiet one. A white garden, and it never goes out of style. This one is made for the strip along the front of the house. An east-facing wall is perfect. Morning sun, afternoon shade. Zones 5 through 7. The astrantia sets the limit. It wants cool summer nights, rich soil that stays moist. All 3 plants want the same soil. They simply divide the light, and the house does that for you. And white has a trick no other palette has. It is the last color the eye loses at dusk, so this bed still glows at the hour you finally get outside. Veronicastrum album, 3 to 4 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet wide, although it may grow taller in especially rich, moist soil. Zones 4 through 8. Tall white candelabra spires appear from midsummer into early fall, earlier in warm zones, and later in cold ones. It is a North American native. and deer usually leave it alone. The one thing to know, part shade is fine, but deep shade is not. Without a few hours of direct light, the spires may lean and flop. Astrantia, snowstar, 2 to 2.5 feet tall and only 1 to 1.5 feet wide, zones 5 through 7. Delicate white star-shaped flowers with a papery green-tipped collar appear from May into July. Cut it back after the first flush, and it may rebloom later in the season. The one thing to know, never let it dry out, or the leaf edges may scorch. Lady's mantle, 18 inches tall and about 2 feet wide, zones 3 through 8. It is not white. Instead, it produces a froth of soft chartreuse flowers from May into July. It grows in sun or shade. The one thing to know, deadhead it promptly as the flowers fade. That keeps self-seeding under control. Want it blooming in spring too? Add white daffodils, thalia. Nodding, pure white flowers appear in April. Zones 3 through 8. Plant them this fall and deer usually leave them alone. After they bloom, leave the foliage in place until it yellows and dies back naturally. That is how the bulb builds next year's flowers. And you will barely notice it. By then, the lady's mantle and astrantia will have filled in around the fading leaves. The daffodils begin the display in April. From May into July, the lady's mantle creates a layer of chartreuse foam with astrantia's white stars beside it. From midsummer into early fall, the veronicastrum spires carry the height, and if you cut the astrantia back after its first flush, it may bloom again to join them. Together they provide color from April into early fall. After that, the pleated leaves hold the front edge green right up to frost. For the layout, place the veronicastrum at the back, the astrantia in the middle, and the lady's mantle along the front edge. Plant in the evening so nothing sits in the midday heat while it settles in. For the first couple of weeks, check the soil daily and water when the top inch feels dry. After that, keep it evenly moist. This bed never wants to bake dry. Feed. Nothing now. Feed once in spring. Prune. Deadhead the lady's mantle as it fades. Cut the astrantia back to encourage a possible second flush. Then cut the whole bed back in early spring. That is it. And the reason to plant now is the same. Warm August soil, strong roots before winter. Number 3, the one everyone struggles with. Shade. The corner under a tree, the north side of a fence, or the strip beside a shaded front porch. Part shade, zones 4 through 8, and rich soil that holds moisture. Soft, romantic, and lush. The exact opposite of bed 1. Hydrangea candy bell bubblegum, 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, zones 3 through 8. Soft pink blooms deepen to rich bubblegum and hold their color for weeks in mid to late summer. Every year on new wood. Strong stems and a compact shape mean no flopping and no constant deadheading, even after heavy rain. And it comes from a North American native species. The one thing to know, it blooms on new wood, so spring pruning doesn't cost you flowers. Astilbe, visions in pink, 1 to 1.5 feet tall and wide, zones 4 through 8. Pastel pink plumes appear from July into August. The one thing to know, never let it bake dry. Steady moisture is everything. Lady fern, 1 to 3 feet tall and 1 to 2.5 feet wide. Zones 4 through 8, no flowers, pure texture. A lush green carpet that makes the astilbe and hydrangea pop. Want spring color too? Add Camassia Leichtlini alba. It is reliably hardy in zones 5 through 8. In zone 4, give it a sheltered spot and winter mulch, 3 to 4 feet tall and 1 to 2 feet wide. Tall spikes of creamy white star-shaped flowers rise in late spring on strong stems that never need staking, appearing before the hydrangea begins to bloom. Deer usually pass it by. Plant the bulbs this fall, 4 to 6 inches deep and 6 inches apart, right through the bed. Just give them a little spring sun before the tree leaves out. Water them well through spring growth and flowering. After bloom, they take drier conditions in stride. The foliage yellows and fades by midsummer, with no cleanup needed, the ferns and astilbe close over it as they fill in. In spring, the Camassia flowers in late spring, before the rest of the bed reaches its stride. In summer, the astilbe blooms through July and August, while the hydrangea opens in July and deepens to bubblegum pink as the flowers mature. In fall, the hydrangea blooms hold their shape and fade softly as they age, standing right through to frost, while the foliage develops warm autumn tones. The fern carries the texture through the entire season. For the layout, place the hydrangea at the back as the anchor, the ferns toward the front and sides 2 to 3 feet out, and the astilbe grouped between them. For water, this is the thirsty one. Check the soil daily for the first 2 weeks and water deeply as needed. After that, keep it evenly moist throughout the season. Plant in the evening so nothing sits in the midday heat while it settles in. For feeding, nothing now, just once in spring. For pruning, cut the hydrangea back by about 1/3 in spring and clear away the old fern fronds. That's it. The same rule applies here. The plants go in now this August while the soil is warm. The bulbs follow in fall. All 3 of these beds are hardy from zone 4 through zone 8. Tell me in the comments what your zone is and what your garden is missing most. Sun, shade, or that one corner that's always sitting empty. You'll help me pick what to cover next.